Welcome, everybody. I'm Keith Godey, and I lead cloud strategy for Velosio, and I am incredibly excited to talk to you about generative AI. AI might be the most prevalent topic in the news today. Many are calling it a generational technology, meaning a technology that makes an impact once in a generation. There was the personal computer, the internet, and many are now saying generative AI will have the same impact. The speed at which this technology has matured over just the past year, if not the past couple months, has really put it front and center. I compare it to going from horse and carriage to a jet in terms of how much it progressed, within the past 12 months. Understanding how this technology can be used and how it will impact businesses now into the future, how it will impact our workforce, how it will help and enable our clients is really important. And we're really excited to talk to you about that today. So with me, I have three panelists I'd like to quickly introduce. And Dan, I'll start with you.
Hi, thank you, Keith. Dan Petchke. I am the Chief Financial Officer here at Velosio.
Welcome, Dan. Liz?
Hi, I'm Liz Corey, and I'm the Chief HR Officer here at Velosio.
Awesome. And Sabrina?
Hey, great to be here today. My name is Sabrina Zamera. I'm the Director of Demand Generation at Velosio.
Well, thank you guys for joining. I know you're as excited to talk about AI as I am. But let's start with a question here. We know there's a lot of AI technology coming to market, perhaps ChatGPT being one of the most popular right now. How are you and your teams currently using generative AI and/or ChatGPT in your departments? And Liz, I'll kick that over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Keith, honestly, we are geeking out about this every single day. We're super excited about generative AI and have already started using it for things like job descriptions, candidate sourcing, employee communications, and training content. And as the technology continues to evolve, we are using this for things like culture and employee experience, which is super critical for us. We're currently evaluating a tool where we can use the generative AI and AI analysis for things like employee sentiment, employee engagement, and to evaluate employee experience. As you know, that's a critical part of our culture. And by having this additional information and this data, we're really hoping that it helps improve employee experience, improve employee engagement, and continue to impact our wonderful culture.
Let me ask real quick. When you're using it for things like job descriptions and things like that, how accurate would you say it is, and how much, is it just giving you a general idea or general direction, or is it pretty darn close to what you're looking for, and there's just some minor tweaks and things that you make to stuff like that?
Yeah, my advice is to always have human interaction, right? But it's very close. So it's cut down time to generate those job descriptions tremendously. As long as you know the right prompts to enter, you'll get a really good result. But that human interaction, that human review of anything, that ChatGPT generates is critical. But I would say 90 to 95% accurate.
It's amazing. Dan, what are your thoughts?
Liz has mentioned too, this is a game changer, right? And we're looking at it less of what we've already implemented, more is what we have underway or assessing. And I think the two big categories to look at is really around efficiencies in the business and then risk, managing risk associated with it. Meaning is if you look at the efficiencies from processes where we may have to key enter things or bookkeeping, data input, reconciliations, all this can be automated. And it doesn't mean you're necessarily going to say, hey, these people doing it today are not going to be with us anymore, which is music to the ears of HR too, right? Of employee engagement. What it's going to lead to is actually having higher skilled jobs. So these tasks and other value-added business processes can be implemented and worked on. So back to the efficiency part, as I mentioned, is critical. The piece on the risk too, a couple of things. If you're getting away from human errors or maybe entry or bookkeeping entries is one piece. The second piece on this too is just from a security front on the IT side. AI, there's so much it could impact. We're looking at our business security today, how it can help us, but also with our procedures and policies to make sure that we have some kind of uniformity or controls around it too. So that is probably, I would say, the biggest things right now that we're looking at is how we can drive it more efficiency within the business and then eliminate risk and drive just a better product. And at the end of the day, we want to have a better support function in place in the back office to support the business and our clients.
Yeah, one of the things, your role, Dan, you also have responsibility for IT, as you were kind of alluding to, and you talked a little bit about risks and handling risks. The organization, I'm guessing most organizations, their users, they want to run, right? They don't want to walk. They want to run towards this technology. They want to use it. They want to, as much as possible. Can you go into a little bit more detail around kind of your thoughts on how to handle that, how to approach the risks, but still giving the right amount of capabilities to the users?
Absolutely. I think it's twofold. One is more around policies or controls, right? And tying in with our HR team so we have something uniform for our employees going out. That is something that we're working on right now too, but it's been such a fast moving game, Keith. I mean, just keeping up with it and modifying it. So it is something that we've started to work on. The second piece too is we get some of the sandboxes created too of things to work on. It's so funny because you have a group of people in the organization, everybody wants to swarm to it because it's the whole new, as I call it, like the shiny object, right? Limiting the amount of people or what we're using it for, like Liz gave a great example of how they're using it in HR, right? That's part of someone's day-to-day jobs. What we're looking at exploring how we can actually leverage and use it. You don't want to have your whole organization focused on the future. You got to keep the business running. So I think limiting the amount of people that are using it as part of their day-to-day or exploring or experimenting, developing some uses for it. I think it's critical we do it, but we just got a limited amount of people doing it.
Yeah, and to add on to that, one of the ways we're controlling that, Dan, is being specific around use cases for it, right? So then that automatically kind of narrows it down to a use case, to impacted or interested users for the technology and stuff. So, yep. All right, from a marketing standpoint, Sabrina, how are you guys using it?
There are just, I can't even count the number of ways that we can use this technology in marketing. It's amazing. We're using AI really to offload some simple tasks or repetitive tasks, but it really gives us the ability to accelerate our content creation like never before. We can understand our buyers and competitors and audiences faster because we have one source we can go to of ChatGPT and ask a question or put in information. It gives us this output that before we were kind of scouring the internet and all these different sources to find and consolidate into one. So that's been great for us. We use it in a lot of different ways to help us ideate like email subject lines that we can test against other subject lines we've used in the past, generate titles and descriptions for events like similar to what Liz does for job descriptions, and help us bring some inspiration when writing blogs or getting content started. Sometimes I feel like in marketing, that's like the hardest part is just what you want to say and how do you get started writing that on paper, and ChatGPT really helps us with that.
And ChatGPT is, like you said, it's text-based. There's other technologies out there that are generative AI, one being like DALL-E, which you ask it to create images, in various levels of detail, and it does a really good job creating those images and stuff. Are you guys, from a marketing standpoint, using any of that today? Or how do you potentially see using it in the future?
Yeah, we're using that minimally today, but really what we're using a lot is the AI functionality within Canva. So in the past, a lot of marketers and graphic design experts were using some of these really advanced and sometimes really expensive tools. Canva is an online image generation tool that's really easy to use. It's becoming really popular with businesses and people alike, but they have AI functionality in Canva that they've rolled out that helps you make the graphics faster and easier and does most of the work for you. And for someone like me who's I'm not a graphic designer, right? It is so helpful to have that tool in our tool belt because it just makes things better and faster.
Yep. So as we kind of move on here, let me ask one quick question. I assume you guys went through weeks of training on how to use this, right? Like this is really complicated technology, and
Oh my gosh.
certainly
No way.
not something you just hand over to users, right?
Instantaneously, right? Like I put in, like someone was like, check out ChatGPT, and I go on there and I'm like, write me 3 emails about a specific topic for a specific audience, and it cranked it out immediately. And I was like, that is how I would have written this. Like, this is amazing. That is how I would have written that.
Yeah, and I think we all have the same answers. No, I mean, you literally start interacting with it, and that's what's been so impressive to me is how fast the technology rooted itself, and then how user friendly it's become, and how quickly it's been adopted with minimal to no training really needed, at least to start using some of the base technology. So, all right, we could talk on tech and we could talk on AI forever, but let's kind of move on to some more topical questions that we're seeing. One, especially being around skills, workforce impact, job impacts, and things like that. And I think, Liz, from an HR standpoint, kind of what are you seeing today, and where are you anticipating, that generative AI is going to impact the workforce?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Keith. As you mentioned earlier, AI is in the news every single day. And one of the things that's paralleling that in the news is sort of a little hysteria and some thinking that jobs will be eliminated as a result of generative AI. I have to say, based on what I'm seeing, I disagree with that thinking. I believe that AI will result in more opportunity and job creation. And while it may in the future, and it will in the future, automate some tasks, it will require skilled professionals in AI engineering, data analysis, and other skills. I also believe that new jobs will be created as a result. I see enhanced productivity and process efficiency, which will require the opportunity to upskill and reskill talent. I think we'll see an emphasis on important competencies that are going to result in this. Things like critical thinking, things like decision making, things like the ability to plan projects and really think differently. It's really important to note that this isn't just doing a Google search, right? You have to input your persona, you have to input exactly what you'd like for ChatGPT, for example, to export for you. So I can't emphasize the critical thinking skills enough. I think overall, from a workforce perspective, it will improve employee experience, in the way that team members interact with each other and with technology. And, this is all goodness, in my opinion. I'm super excited.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And, there's not a lot out there around employee experience and how this AI could impact that. But if you think about some of the mundane work that we all have to do, and being able to cut that in half or eliminate it is going to let us and our teammates to really put more time on kind of again, to your points, the critical thinking, the deeper analysis, the more creative stuff that we can be doing to grow the business. So good, thank you. Sabrina, I want to ask this from you from a marketing standpoint. You mentioned some of the use cases you guys are using it for, but can you be a little more specific on like personalized marketing, content creation, maybe how it even changes the customer interaction into the future?
Yeah, and I want to also double down really on what Liz said. Like, critical thinking skills when you're using these tools is so very important, right? Because what we're doing is not removing the requirement for us to plan those strategic marketing campaigns and understand what messages are going to appeal to our target audience. These are tools that we can use, but we have to keep in mind everyone else is using these tools as well, right? we need to make sure that we're able to, as a marketing department, remain unique and true to what our core values are and the communication that we're trying to get across to our audience. We don't want to lose what makes us special and what makes us different. I can tell when people on my team send me something and they're like, I can tell it came from ChatGPT, right? It's really a baseline for us to use and to build off of. We don't want to take that word for word. We don't want to copy and paste and say, oh, our campaign's done or our email's done. It's really just a baseline. But what you were talking about, Keith, is exactly what's been important in marketing for a long time now, is the customer experience and the prospect journey and how we can personalize what our messaging is and what our offering is to exactly what that person is interested in. And that's what these tools really help us to enable, as well as understanding what people have interacted with in the past, what topics are engaging to them, and how we can continue to drive that conversation by sending them targeted emails or retargeting ads at them, at things that really that really are interesting to that specific person.
And I've got to believe that small and mid-sized companies that don't have large marketing teams, this technology will really be able to help them kind of boost go-to-market efforts and accelerate, maybe apply this technology where they may not have skills or experience in having to do that in the past.
100%. I think that the biggest game changer this technology will have is not necessarily for the large corporations. They've been able to afford these tools for a long time, right? The game changer here is going to be for individuals and those SMB companies who now everyone has access to these tools at no cost or minimal cost, and they can really take advantage of these things and change the way their business operates. There's so much potential here for those companies.
Yep. Well, you mentioned the word cost, so I got to go to our CFO, Dan. There's a lot of potential benefit here, right? I think some known, a lot unknown at this point, but very few companies, I saw some surveys here recently, 70 to 80% of companies believe they need to be doing something with generative AI. They're not sure what yet. They're not sure how much to invest, but know that they need to start moving. From your standpoint, where should you start thinking about investments in relation to like your traditional operating budget, and how should you start thinking about where to allocate funds? Well, should you be thinking about allocating funds, and if so, where should you be doing that?
That's a great question, Keith. And I've been researching this as well and looking at what companies are doing. IT budgets. There was a study out too where IT budgets are starting to balloon a little bit. I think it was a 20+% increase year over year, because companies are starting to think, hey, what do I need to do? Right, I need to spend money on this. And I think we would all agree on this call that if you don't embrace this technology, you're gonna be left behind, right, for the future, one way or the other, from not only supporting your clients, but also looking at your business processes and how you can drive efficiency, but leveraging for growth, right? I can tell you, even in the areas that we're identified where we think AI would be beneficial, the nice thing about using AI is it really will enable us then to rapid our growth or support to our end clients without adding a lot more labor, right? We can reutilize the labor we have, skill set, as Liz mentioned earlier about critical thinking, and really drive development of individuals too. So from a budgeting standpoint, I would see really twofold. One is technology to explore what you need to actually invest in. Second piece, I think, is retraining the workforce. I mean, making some investment in HR, I see is critical. Regarding like the ROI, related to the investment and looking at it, I think there's a couple of things we need to look at. One being is, what's the direct relationship of ROI even on existing projects you're doing? So not even thinking about using, starting a new project, but looking at existing projects you have in flight. I'll pick on marketing, right? If you're using AI, maybe you can get a better return on what you're doing for the outcome of the project itself. So embracing that is one element. I think that financial people need to look at that and saying, hey, if we use some type of investment, can we get a greater return on it? That's one fold. I think second piece, more broadly, Keith, is you're looking at making AI investment. I think it starts with looking at your business processes and trying to identify where there's transactional activities or maybe there's lack of controls that you can utilize the AI technology. I know it's changing every day. We've been kicking the tires on a few different areas, but it might look totally different 6 months or 12 months from now. So I think that's probably looking at identifying where your biggest pain points are, or transactional activities within your processes, and start there. You can start small. Don't try to boil the ocean. Don't try to put your company in jeopardy or not support your clients, but try to start something and at least start using it, right? Like marketing or HR, they're using it for job descriptions or marketing campaigns and utilizing it. That's how we're looking at it. How can we start small with some of our business transactional processes and try to leverage it now? Because we know from a year from now, if we're not fully embracing it in some areas of the business, we're going to start falling behind and not being as competitive as an organization.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And one of the use cases we're actually working with a client on is around, to your point, standardization and SOPs. What we're doing is, think about all the knowledge base articles and stuff that exist in the company today to really find that current version of that and then follow it. It can be challenging and take some time to do. Whereas if you can just interact with AI, ask it the question about a policy or something that you need, it'll give those results back to you, making driving more standards. So that's a very interesting use case that we're seeing some need for today even. One of the things we didn't touch on is what Microsoft is beginning to release around their generative AI solution. It's called Copilot. And for those that don't know, think of Copilot as interacting with all the Microsoft applications like Excel, PowerPoint, Teams, Dynamics, Power Platform, etc., by simply using natural language. And for those who aren't familiar, natural language is just interacting with the system, just like we're talking today. We've gotten really conditioned over the years on how to Google and certain keywords you need to look for what you're looking, and you click on a link and it gets you a little further, and then finally you find what you're looking for. Natural language and the use of AI is just having a conversation with the technology as you would talk, and it gives you back the results you're expecting. So that's what Microsoft's using, or what Copilot is within the Microsoft stack. And for example, you can highlight a set of cells in Excel and ask Copilot to analyze that data and tell you the top 3 important highlights or insights from the data. You could ask Copilot to create a QBR deck in PowerPoint and copy and paste different data sources and different documents into it, and it'll pull that information together for you, create pictures, and create the PowerPoint stuff that you would need for a QBR. If you show up late to a Teams meeting, you can ask it to summarize the meeting so far, and it'll give you a summary of the meeting, and then you can ask it to generate action items from the meeting, and then send those action items off in an email. The list goes on, but how we interact with applications is dramatically changing. And think about the time savings and how we'll be able to put that time into more detailed and more creative type of work to grow the business. And we touched on some of that, a little bit ago. So that's Copilot. Lastly, Microsoft started exposing generative AI capabilities into Azure. And this is where we can really help you bring your data into a secure place where it's only available to you. So if you're using ChatGPT and you're putting proprietary business information into there, know that data could be used to train their models and things like that. Whereas this same AI capabilities available in Azure, and we can help bring that data in there, and you can actually start using AI capabilities on your data and only exposed to you. And so I talked about a use case around standard operating procedures for your organization. And then you can ask it questions. So you could say, how do I onboard a new employee? What are the paid holidays for 2023? And what are the dates of those holidays? And do I have enough PTO available to take the week of Thanksgiving off? So being able to interact with the system that way. And Liz touched on employee experience. Think how good of an experience that is if I can just go into something and say, I'm traveling to a client site next week. Our Hilton hotel is covered under my expense reimbursement policy. How do I enter my travel expenses into our reimbursement system? And just interact that way versus having to search for that information or email people and try to find out. The customers are going to interact with you and your business very differently as well. So imagine all the use cases around customer support. Customers are often asking for the same solution, but might be asking it in very different ways. And that's where the natural language piece plays in. So for example, what if a customer could interact with your generative AI support solution for maybe understanding and paying their invoice? They could simply ask, how much do I owe this month? Why was there an increase in my bill from last month to this month? What were my 3 highest bills in 2022? How do I pay my outstanding invoices? Generative AI in Azure takes all that information that you might have within your company already. You can put it in Azure, and that data will feed the answers to the questions in a really concise, incredibly accurate, and really user consumable way. And this is very different than chatbots that we may have interacted with today. Because if you use like a traditional chatbot, the answers are hard coded. It's looking for keywords that you mentioned, and it's going to point you to a hard coded answer. Whereas with generative AI, it knows how to answer those questions based on all the data that you fed it. That could be your data. I can go forever on this topic, but reach out, if you need help developing a generative AI strategy, at least seeing, how you could use it, how your customers might be able to use it, things you need to be thinking about. So, I kind of want to wrap with, as we look to the future, what do you consider to be the most exciting potential developments or applications of generative AI? And how might your respective departments prepare for and leverage those advancements? And Liz, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, thank you. First off, I'm super excited about Copilot, and now I can think of at least a half a dozen spreadsheets that I'm looking to use that technology on. But overall, from an HR perspective, I'm really excited about using intelligent data to replace things like employee surveys and employee reviews, right? Allowing for real-time feedback and much more proaction action planning. Those are things that are all important to the human aspect of the employee-employer relationship. I'm also looking forward to the improvements in employee experience, as we've touched on a number of times, and creating those more personalized experiences for employees as they need them. Always excited about streamlining processes. I think to prepare, we're actively looking at tools that are available right now and running them concurrently with our surveys, for example, and performance reviews to see the correlation. I think it's really important to be able to look at, hey, what feedback are our team members telling us or giving us, and what is the data showing us through the AI experience, and then really jumping in to validate that, right? To look at where those correlations are. I think it's jumping into the shallow end and learning to swim, but also validating the results that we're getting. So that's a little bit about how we're preparing and also leveraging these advancements.
Thank you. Dan?
Yeah, as Liz mentioned, Microsoft Copilot, I'm thrilled about it. I mean, in so many different fronts. Maybe to go down like 3 or 4 main areas. You start with, as I mentioned to you originally, about business security, right? If you look at our cybersecurity and some of our protection, our technology group will definitely benefit from the use of AI. On the FP&A side, so financial planning and analysis, I can think of multiple things as we build the budget process, right? As we do actually month-end and analytics, or more frequently, we'll be able to look at correlations, do some of the analytics, get the data in there. And then the team can spend more time actually working on other value-added activities, right? Deep diving as we look at the outcomes of some of these trends, trying to understand what some of the business issues are so we can actually work on and be value-added partners versus just getting the information over to it. The accounting process, closing, I mean, there's just a landmine of a bunch of things that AI can help with. You look at Microsoft Copilot from a standpoint of taking care of transaction activities, collections with clients, closing the books with reconciliations, managing your audits, right? External auditors and how you actually provide the information. This should be so much more streamlined related to handling it. And then, even if you look at it from like a programming standpoint, so our strategic systems area from BI, right? This could do BI reporting and build up some of our dashboards for us pretty nicely, and as well as some of our coding too. as we make interfaces and so on. So there's a ton of opportunities here. It's just a matter of prioritizing. And like we said, is we'll just start dabbling and starting smaller and see what the impact is and just start rolling it out further and further as we go down the road.
Yeah, good. And then Sabrina, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think this is going to help us move faster, right? We can test our messaging faster. Marketing is all about being creative and trying to make sure that you have a message that resonates, that people connect with. And this is going to help us test that messaging, make sure we better understand what people are searching for. We're getting more data on what really is working and what people are really connecting with. So we can use that more moving forward. Understanding the intent of our audience, and then again back to what we talked about earlier, the personalization and being able to understand that if the person I'm trying to talk to has a business challenge in one area, then chances are, AI is going to tell me they probably have business challenges in area A, B, and C as well. So we can help deliver value to our customers faster. And then just on a personal note, because of what I do and working for Velosio, I love the opportunities we're going to be having to tell the story of how this technology can change businesses and how we can help make that possible. I just think that the possibilities are limitless of what people can do with this. And I can't wait to see everything that comes out.
They absolutely are. I mean, time will tell, and I think we're as excited about the transformational capabilities generative AI is bringing now and what it will bring the businesses into the future. It's moving fast. Velosio is committed to keeping up with the technology. We can really help you boil down what's real and available now, what isn't, how you can use it, how we're seeing other people use it, other clients, other businesses use it, and help you build out that plan. Just reach out. That being said, thank you all for attending Aspire 23. Thank you three for joining me. Anytime we get a chance to talk about this is incredibly exciting. So enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.